Welcome
Hi.
to In the Closet. I'm here with Deb from
Hello, everybody.
QUEERSTROLOGY.
Woo.
And also, Deb and I met from her podcast on Instagram, Deck Discussions. Anyway, you were
Yes.
here in my closet with me in the dark. Ooh.
It's dark but sparkly.
Dark and
So I'm
sparkly.
yeah.
I'm in LA and it's been cold and rainy.
Yeah.
I mean, cold in LA is like 60 degrees. So I always have to have so
Same.
many beverages while I'm doing everything on podcast. So this is
Oh,
like
nice. Cheers.
I'm doing my first beverage is like a hot, look at these nails. My
I
first
know. Look at
beverage
that.
is a
Let's hear a
hot,
tap.
oh,
Give us a
wait.
tap.
I'm going to give you a tip. This is
You
like
got
a
to give us
hot
an ASMR.
broth. I'll do like a broth and then I'll put in like cayenne pepper and stuff like that. And then my second beverage, because it is evening, is because I love crystals so much. This is an Italian crystal glass. Here we go.
Can't hear that at all. It's so light.
Wow. Well, it's fancy. And I'm drinking out of a very fancy, expensive crystal glass.
It looks very nice too.
Everything's
just so sparkly over there.
I'm so happy you're in the closet with me. And we're out of the closet. We're in the closet.
Wait, are we only here for 7 minutes? Is that how this works or what?
For 7 minutes? Oh my goodness.
7 minutes of heaven?
Oh yes.
In the closet, remember?
I've been to heaven and back, baby. Yeah, you never played that?
No, can you believe that? I was just too shy and like
being a
bookworm when I was a young thing. I didn't get crazy until I was in my 30s.
Oh, well, at the end of the show, I am definitely going to ask you about some in your closets, and we always have a good coming out story here. But I'm so excited because we met on your Instagram podcast, right? I guess your Instagram live Dyke discussions, and
talked about abuse in relationships.
Talked about abuse and talked about some dumpster fires that I dated. And
same.
I like, disclaimer, I wish I knew so much more about astrology. And I love kind of watching your Instagram, watching your feeds, watching QUEERSTROLOGY, and living vicariously through all of these interviews that you did. Holy cow. You met Theo Germain.
Yeah.
And
I love Theo.
I love Theo. I love Theo.
Also an Aries, by the way. Theo's also an Aries.
Amazing. Wow. No, Theo is just such an incredible actor, personality, everything. And I was
a great person. Like, you know how sometimes you meet people and they're kind of jerks? Not even like one of the nicest people ever. Seriously. Just lovely. Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that. Wow. Well, I'm jealous, and I watched that interview and I was like, oh my goodness. But I feel like a bad gay because so many lesbians are, super serious when it comes to astrology and your zodiac sign.
It's our religion, Amy. How do you not know?
It is part of our religion. And I got into a thing in like 2020 when everyone was, sorry if I'm yelling, in lockdown. I had a friend that got me into watching this YouTuber who does sidereal astrology, opposed to tropical astrology, I guess.
Yes.
And I was all confused because it was like all of a sudden I was a Libra something and a this something. And it was like everything I knew about being an Aries. And I had my chart done before and I was like, I'm so confused. But her thing, I stopped watching her. I'm not going to say who she is, but she got a little bit, it was a little bit too, this is what's happening in your future. Like your future, like this is your sidereal chart and this is what's going to happen to you. And I had so much anxiety during 2020. I mean, lockdown, the election, the protests, like so many living in downtown LA, everything, looting, like everything that was going on. I had to stop. And she was kind of, I don't want to say Q anonymous-ish. You know what I mean? It was a little bit like
no, I understand what you're trying to say.
Theorist-ish, Republican-ish. So I stopped watching that.
Sometimes you don't know, you're just watching and you're like, oh.
Yeah, I was like, oh.
But honestly, I'll start out with actually a couple things I want to say to that. One is like how I look at astrology, but I do want to address the difference between sidereal and tropical and what the
Please
heck that
educate
even means,
us.
right?
Yes.
All right. So there's basically two kinds of overarching astrology that all of the other ones fall into. One is sidereal, which is Eastern, okay? And the other one's tropical, Western style, if you will. Placidius is under that. There's a bunch that are under the Western.
Did you say Placidius?
Yes, it's
I like that word.
Style. Yeah. So there's different house styles. There's all that stuff. Okay. I know it's like a lot of different. There's a lot of different stuff, but basically the difference is, tropical is a little bit younger by about 700 years.
Okay.
But not much because it's still ancient. The difference is sidereal is more exact. I mean, the constellations are what we're talking about when we talk about the signs, and Virgo's gigantic and Aries is tiny. So if we were actually going by that, it probably wouldn't be as even as we've made it.
Right.
And only very educated astrologers could do that information, like, Galileo, that kind of thing. So in order to make it more like attainable, tropical started, how do we separate this out and all that stuff. So that's kind of the difference. And I tend to resonate more with tropical, but whether you resonate with either of those, how I speak about it could help you understand it, because it's all the players are the same. It's just a matter of what your chart looks like.
I resonate more with whatever you tell me, because you've been doing this for a long time and I just believe you, and I'm going to be a good gay, and I'm going to not date another, I've dated Cancers and Leos like up the wazoo. I don't know. You probably already know that because you've done my chart.
No, but the
and
Leo
a Gemini.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah, I've had a couple of Cancers, a couple of Leos, and a Gemini. But how long have you been doing astrology?
Like professionally, so to speak, only a couple of years. This will only be my second year coming up. Can you believe that?
Get it?
I started QUEERSTROLOGY 2 years ago, so I've always been into it. In fact, ironically and weirdly, I'm in my childhood home right now. Just the house that I grew up in, I'm living in it again, which is weird. I'm in the master, but my old childhood bedroom still has the little glow stars on the ceiling.
I had those. I love the glow in the dark sticker
and I put
stars.
the constellations of my best friends on the ceiling.
Wow. So it's just always been something since you were a child.
It's just been there. And I think that I just didn't I was always, I'm a Capricorn, by the way, so everybody knows where I'm coming from. I'm a Capricorn with a lot of Sagittarius placements. And I was always busy working and doing other things. And this is more like a hobby. So actually 2020 for me was a good thing, because I got to back off from working so much and get back to my creative, because I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts. My degree's in graphic design, and I've been doing marketing for architecture and engineering firms, big ones, big design firms.
So when the pandemic, when the Panini, I call it the Panini, when the pandemic Panini hit, you were like, time for you, jump into this full on.
Yeah. I just got into art stuff, creation. And then I was actually doing some sex education stuff, because this is when I started becoming
episode 2 with Deb.
Yeah. Actually, it leans all into each other. That's
what I want to talk about. I want to talk about how QUEERSTROLOGY and sex education and education of all of these things.
Because I tried to start something called the pleasure revolution, because I came out of this really bad relationship that I had told you about on our date discussions. And after that, I decided that I was going to let my freak flag fly, because I had been so a serial monogamous, and I should not have been. I was in denial, right? So now I'm like, let's open the world and see what we can find. And then I just started preaching that out to people, and then showing people how to give other people pleasure. I literally have videos on how to fist people, all sorts of stuff. So it's for everybody. It's not just for queer people, although that was
links in description below.
Yeah, I'll send them to you.
There will be a part 2 of this video if you were this is I have a feeling Deb and I are going to be friends for a long time, and there's going to be lots of appearances.
Oh man,
And
lots of stories.
and to be in the closet, and yes, and link
Because
in
I was in the
description
closet sexually,
below.
really, like until I got to let my energy out, if you will. So then how I'm like, wait a second, what's with astrology and all this male female crap, right? Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, that stuff, right? I'm like, So I was like looking around at other astrologers and like trying, because there's queer astrologers, even Channy, right? Channy's a queer astrologer. So I'm like, oh, okay. Nobody was taking that out. Nobody was taking gender out of astrology. So I'm like, all right, I'll do it. So I started QUEERSTROLOGY, but my premise was actually about pleasure and the pleasure revolution attached to it, because Mars ended up being top energy and Venus ended up being
ruling
bottom
planet.
energy.
My ruling planet. I'm a top. Ooh, ooh.
Actually,
this just gets better and better.
No, you're not. It's not your ruling planet. No. We're going to talk about you right now, actually.
We're going to know everything. And let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I feel vulnerable with you because like you know so much about my chart and so much more than I know. But do you feel that astrology can help you predict your future short term?
I mean, honestly, like I don't do predictive astrology. That's when people are like, oh, let's look at like election day and see who's going to win. Right. As
like
an example.
The QAnonymous people.
I will tell you the only time I've ever really done that myself, just personally, to see if I can see, because I can read what happens between two charts and if the aspects are good or not. Right. And I'll explain more of that in a minute. I'm sorry, y'all, but I'm just giving you this like off the top. Was actually the verdict day. And we all know what case I'm talking about, because I wanted to see. I was so impatient, and I'm just like, and I knew it. I knew after I saw it. I was like, yes,
you can tell the future.
So yeah, I mean, and I've actually
you're talking about the verdict day. You're talking about the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial.
Absolutely, yes. And I've done a story about this. I think her name is Adelaide. This like very first astrologer. She actually is from, I think, Germany, but she lived in New York. She was like one of the first astrologers to have a like an astrology office in New York. This is like way back, like early 1900s, I think.
What?
And yeah, so she kept getting fined for like being a psychic and like telling people these things. And so she finally decided, instead of just paying the fine, to fight it. She goes to court. The judge or the other attorney gives her a birth chart and asks her to read it. And she reads it and she says, this is a young person who will probably die in a water accident of some sort, blah, 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 right? Long story short, basically the judge was like, that chart was of my son, and he actually passed away about 2 weeks ago from a drowning accident. So he said astrology is real, she's not guilty, and that was like one of the first things, right?
That's wild.
But I don't think it's an exact science. I just think it's about energy, if that makes sense. Like the moon affects the tide in the water, the suns affect the seasons. We're made of the same stuff as stars, so
we are water,
us, right?
That's why I act crazy on the full moon. I just say I've got too much water.
Well, not to mention you're a Scorpio moon.
But I am a Scorpio moon. Do you think, have you ever, have you ever dated anyone or like wanted to like date somebody, but then when you did their chart, you were kind of like, and you saw too many things that were like red flags?
Yes. Honestly, I'll be really surface level with you here. It don't even take that long. I will sometimes get that far with a Libra if I forgot to ask them what their sign was, because they're usually beautiful, right? So I'll be like attracted to them, and I'm not thinking with the right head, folks. And then I am like, oh, by the way, I forgot to ask what your sign was, and they're like Libra, and I'm like,
my sister's a Libra. She's so pretty. My sister was always just the pretty one. And she's still very pretty. And she is
they're fine for the fun things.
You can't make up her goddamn mind.
Yes. And because I'm a Capricorn, that's very earth structure, blah, blah, blah. It drives me crazy. So like long-term situations, or like we can be friends, but we cannot be in a romantic relationship, Libras and I. And there's been other times when I've looked up something in somebody's chart and I was like, maybe I'll just slow down on chatting with them. Because let's be real, I have been quite the sluttiness. And I mean that in the best way possible. That is not
Get it.
an insult, okay?
Oh yeah, sluttiness, definitely.
Yeah, for like the past 4 years, literally the last 4 years, I've just been going crazy.
Well, so people who don't know that much about astrology, you can still read through, the 12 signs and get the couple of key, the key characterizations, I would say,
sure,
surface wise. And I have friends that are also Capricorns, and I have to say that all the Capricorns that I know, one of my best friends growing up, he's a Capricorn, they seem to age backwards. They seem to be, and I don't know that much about astrology, but that is one characteristic that all the Capricorns I know, they are goats that play and jump on mountain. They are playful, and you become more childlike the older you get. Is that kind of fair to say?
Absolutely true. That's a great
Yes, you remind me of a friend.
There were a little bit of like a Benjamin Button action, right? Because we're like, when I was 6, I had like 2 different colored shirts that said "I'm the boss" on it. Okay, because I'm a Capricorn structure. I got to build structure, and I think that as we get older, Capricorns, as we get older, we start to realize there's some stuff that we don't need to worry about. So we just become less rigid and more playful. And I think that's where that comes off, right?
Super. Yeah. Well, I guess let's get into
let's talk about yours.
Sure. Yes.
No, we don't have to do everything, because I don't, you and I should do like a private one where I get to read you everything and walk you through your entire chart. But for this, let's talk about, like, I'm going to give you an overarching thing, and then we'll talk about the goods.
Yes. Right? And I want more. Okay. I want you to tell me. So I will tell you, I am at, we all women and all people, we have, moments in our life that are life-changing. We have our cycles that we go through where we'll be doing one thing for maybe 10 years or 8 years, or, there's things that I am, I'm going through one of the biggest renaissance, changing, open, free periods of my life again. I think the last time I felt this way was maybe in my early 30s. And I'm coming up.
That's right.
I'm coming up 100 soon. Next year. But
looking good, girl.
Thank you. Good. I'm a Capricorn on the outside. I don't have any Capricorn in me, but I would like to age backwards. No, but
you do, and we'll talk about that in a second. But that's besides the point.
I really am. I'm so interested to hear about things in my birth chart because of where I am today, November 10th, 2022. I've really gone through a shit year in a lot of ways.
A lot of stuff.
I've gone through a lot of stuff, and I've gone through trauma, and I didn't really, I went through trauma as a child and certain other times in my life, but I really, I have had unique experiences this year and a lot of loss and profound sadness and things that got me to a place that really, it's just, it can't be more true to say that when you're at the bottom, the only way to go is up. And I feel like I hit a little bit of a rock bottom this year. Not rock bottom like what some people might think rock bottom means. I would say
life is a sounding board. There's different areas going different.
Like I didn't go to rehab, or, but yes. My friends have seen me hit some places this year of deep, deep sadness, of loss, and I had a lot of loss, multiple people in my life. that were close to me. And I feel this really interesting, and I'm feeling it now, like doing this YouTube channel and interviewing people, and I absolutely love it. And it's happening. It's happening. It hasn't happened in a long time, but it is happening. There is a new zhuzh happening with me, and I'm really curious where and why and how. And tell me what
I already know just by what you're saying where it is. I already know. I'm like, oh yeah.
Preach.
So I just want to start off by saying, everyone on your natal chart, not just Amy, but every single person, I'm going to tell you the 4 main elements that we look at in a natal chart, so you know what the heck you're even looking at, right? And this kind of goes for everybody. Now, on the outside edge of those round charts that you happen to look up, on the outside edge are the signs. Those are the constellations, right? So they rotate around, and wherever your rising is, which will always be on the left side of this round chart, that's the starting point. That was the constellation that was on the eastern horizon the moment that you were born. That is why it's your rising sign. That is also the ruler of your chart. So in your case, you happen to be a Virgo rising, so you're actually ruled by Venus.
I'm not a top.
That means you're ruled by the bottom planet. How funny is that? But that doesn't mean that either. But we'll talk about what it means. That's great. you thought you were ruled by the top planet.
I was like, I'm the god of war.
I mean, you are, sun-wise. So that's the signs, and how we think about those is their personalities that we talk about, right? So when we're talking about your something is in this sign, we're saying it's that kind of personality. Now, the other thing we have is in the middle of your round chart, there's numbers. And if you go across that ascendant line that's there, it starts at 1, just under it, and it goes counterclockwise around to 12. Those are the houses. That's the playing field of your life. So it sections out different parts, like yourself and your home and stuff like that, right? That's where stuff is happening at. And then you have those little glyph things, those little marks on there. There's thousands and thousands of them. We're just doing like the big ones, right? The ones that most people know and whatnot. And then there's always lines going all over the place. What is that nonsense? Those are aspects. That's how your focus points, those glyphs, get along with each other. Okay. So everybody has all 12 signs in their chart. So how you were saying that you don't have Capricorn in your chart, you do. It rules your 5th house. It rules your house of creativity, in fact, which is kind of a big one for you.
Yes.
Now, what's interesting about that,
I love that.
Right? What's interesting is, and I was going to talk about this in a minute, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about it since what you just brought up. Now, interestingly, you have a placement, and possibly 2 placements here, because it's right on the cusp of a house, but they're in Aquarius.
Interesting.
All right. Now, think about what you were just saying. Aquarius is unique, right? They're the alien of the group. They're always different. They don't want to do things traditionally. You're very familiar with Aquarians, right? They're out there. That's part of their persona. And so that's the kind of energy you're bringing to this particular part of your life. Now, it's ruled by Capricorn. This is your house of creation and pleasure, right? So you're looking for achievement and ambition and how you're creative. And we know you do that, right? On top of that, though, you want to be different. You want it to be not typical of how other people do it. And you have 2 planets here in Aquarius. One is the social planet of Jupiter. It's the planet of expansion, growth, good luck. So it's there in your 5th house.
Wow.
And it's in Aquarius. Then this is the one that's probably really giving you, it's probably your Jupiter return, more than likely, or possibly because that comes usually right before or right after your Saturn return. I can't remember, but and then Mars is also there. It's right on the cusp of the 5th and 6th house. But the more I look at it, I feel like it belongs in your 5th house for some reason. That's just my vibe. It could be in either, technically. And Mars, that's that top energy, right? So imagine you're Aquarius, but top energy really means what you want to be dominant over. So you don't want anybody messing with your unique creativity. Like, you better stay away from it. That's mine. I'm in control of that. Nobody else touches it. Does that make sense? It's like your blocked off area. It's where your drive is. So your drive is in conjunction That's one of those aspects I was talking about, those lines. This one doesn't have one because they're next to each other. So when they're within 10 degrees of each other, they have blended energy. So your drive and expansion is blended together and it's unique.
I
Like
like that.
how interesting is
Like
that? I saw that, I was
that.
like immediately like, whoa. So
What
yeah.
can I ask? This is so interesting. Can I ask you, for people watching who are not
Yeah.
as familiar, but in the houses, we have the house of creativity, a house of family or money, or that. What are some of the what are the main ones that when you're reading somebody's chart? What are the
Oh, I
houses
go
that
through
you're
every
like?
single one.
Yeah.
You go through every single one. The first one is the house of self, right? The second, I'll just give you like a little mini. The second house
Yeah,
is
yeah.
house of value and security. Okay. And when you start out, it's kind of like how I was talking about the sounding board before. That's similar. It's like anything you start, you're going to start kind of in the first house, if that makes sense. You're going to figure out what about yourself, and then you're going to figure out what you value and how to make it secure. The third is how to communicate about it. The third house is communication. Fourth house is establishing a base or a home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fifth is now that I have my home, I can start being creative. So creation. And then once you start creating things, you got to establish a routine. That's the sixth
Right.
house. And then once you have a routine, now you can make your connections. Seventh house is relationships. Now you
Okay.
can step into your power, the eighth house. And to add to that, you're going to need more experience and adventure, the ninth house. Then it's the highest point of achievement in the 10th house. The 11th house is your social groups and how your humanitarian acts. And then finally, the 12th house is your intuition and dreams. So you can see that like once you go to the or the third house is what we call the under part, or the gates of Hades is actually called.
God, that sounds very dramatic.
It does sound, but it just means it's internal work. It's internal work.
Yes.
Your shadow work is the third to the eighth house. So that's why like the darker part, literally the darker part of the horizon, right? That's it. So yeah, all of them mean something, and it's just the playing field. So like as an example, you're a Virgo rising, right?
Yes.
So this means we put Virgo's personality to self, because it's the house of self. So how other people see you, even how you see yourself at first when you start something new or whatever, is you want it to be perfect.
100%. I'm very,
Virgos want to perfect.
I don't like the word perfectionist, but I always say I'm very detail oriented, and I am extremely detail oriented when it comes to my work, especially. And
that's you. That's you
yes.
representing yourself. Do you see? So that's why anything that has to do with what's coming from representing you, you're going to be very detailed in, because Virgo is structure and detail, basically, right? So that's the energy that it gives off. And this is how people, when they first meet you, might see you, because they're like, yeah, she's got her shit together. Everything's like lined up. It's all like whatever. When they get to know you, then they know that you're an Aries and that you're a little crazy. Okay.
Right.
Like we all are, but like, that's the true you. And we'll talk about that more in a second. But this is kind of your presentation to people, including yourself, when you start something, because that's how you want people to kind of, that's how you get started in order to feel like you're good after. You have to have some sort of list, if you will.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. That definitely makes sense. Oh, I love that.
Oh, that's so great.
Wow. Wow.
Now,
what else? Keep talking.
I can
This is,
read it
I'm
as I
learning
read it,
so
right?
much.
I'll just read it around. Like if you can tell, like some of them I was gonna skip because they're generational planets and stuff like that. But the next two, in fact, you have another placement in your first house, which is actually the planet of Pluto, and this is a generational planet. There's 3 of those, and the shortest timed one is Uranus, and that's 7 years. So anybody who's within your age range will have it within the same sign, not in the same house necessarily. I mean, obviously some people, but it's not the same thing, right? So it's a generational thing, and Pluto is transformation. So your generation's transformation, it's in Libra. You all are looking for balance. So your particular role is finding balance within yourself. That's your role in your generation's go. You know what I mean? So then Libra happens to rule your second house. Now, how you find out, for anybody who might be interested when you're looking at your chart, when you go down these lines, you have that ascendant line, but then the next line down that's coming out from the center is where the second house is starting. That's the lead line for the second house. You go counterclockwise for the lead line for every house. Wherever that line hits, that sign rules the house, even if it's 1 degree. All right. So Libra rules your second house. So, like I was telling you, this is your house of security and things that you value. You value justice. You want things to be even. That's why they have a problem making a decision. That's why Libras have problems making decisions, because they want to make sure they've weighed all the options.
Yes.
Literally, right? And you have Uranus here. This is another generational planet, and it's your planet of rebellion. So you want to be very balanced in how you're pushing the security boundary, if you will. So you're trying to make sure you're still safe in what you're doing, but you want to push the boundaries a little bit, because you want to create more value. You want to create more richness. Now Scorpio rules your third house. Third house is the house of communication. Okay.
How do I communicate?
Scorpio.
Do I communicate like a Scorpio?
Scorpio moons. Let me tell you something about Scorpio moons, since my main partner is a Leo and you're an Aries, right? So fire with a Scorpio moon. Let me tell you something. Y'all are a pain in the rear, but I love Scorpio placements. They're my favorite. So I'm here for
it. Recording in progress.
Hi.
Scorpio moon.
Yeah, Scorpio moon, I was saying, is one of the more psychic placements, because it's a water sign moon, which Cancer is ruled by the moon, and that's also a water sign. So it's emotional connection to, and their emotions already, water signs. So it gives you this like extra like gut instinct when it comes to when people are communicating with you. Now, what you were saying also indicates the other placement you have here, which is the other generational planet of Neptune, but it's in Sagittarius. Sagittarius, sorry.
Yeah. Sagittarius.
And so Sagittariuses are known for what? Knowing everything. That's what they're known for. They are know-it-alls. It's because they do know it all, because they don't talk about things they don't know about. That's how that works. So when it comes to people communicating and you're like, that, if it's a gut instinct, that's your moon, and your emotions are feeling it.
Yeah.
If it's a head thing and you're like, oh, that's some bullshit, that's the Sagittarius Neptune, because Neptune is literally intuition and dreams, and they're based on experience. So this is when you're hearing something and you're like, no, I've literally done this, and you're full of crap.
Yeah.
Right? That's why Sagittarians know everything, because they will only talk about the stuff they know about. They don't want to get caught like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's part of that energy as well.
Oh, I don't like when people try to talk about things they don't know about. Oh,
it's like, just don't do it, right?
Stop. I hate it. I do. I hate it.
Just now, like, interestingly, you just don't do it anymore.
I like when people talk about things they know about it. I'm like, ooh, that's exciting for me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. That's exciting for me.
Now, Sagittarius was your fourth house. This is your house of home and also your roots. So your past life and like where you came from was very experienced. So you like to actually go out and get your hands dirty, experience things, like go through it. In fact, you feel comfortable doing that now.
Yeah.
You like to do that. The thing is, and we'll talk a little bit more about this when we get up to the 10th house in your midhaven, that's what you're supposed to do now, based off of that. So all that experience you've gained from your past life, from your past now, all of that will come up to this MC that we'll talk to when we get to your 10th house, which is in Gemini. It's always the opposite, right?
Hey.
So, and these are my favorite opposite signs to talk about, is Gemini and Sagittarius. Sagittarius, like I said, is experience tangible, wants to actually experience. A Gemini, on the other hand, they can be like, how do you make a paper airplane? You show them how to make it, and then the next day they're on YouTube showing people how to make paper airplanes. That's a Gemini. Okay. They're TED talking about paper airplanes. They didn't know about it 5 minutes before. They probably hadn't even made one. They literally made their video while they were making their first paper airplane. Okay. So that's the difference, because they're both into intelligence and understanding things. So your midhaven, your medium, the MC stands for medium coli, sorry. Ooh. And it is top of the sky. That's why it's your achievement. So now it wants you to start telling a story, doing more storytelling.
I love that.
When it comes to it.
That's what I want to do.
So taking that tangible experience from your past and now kind of dreaming up and storybooking and storytelling, because a lot of the stuff that it wants you to do may not be actual real life things. So you need to be able to tell a story, right? And that's what your MC wants you to do. And we'll talk more about it in a second when we get up there, because I want to talk about what's next to it. But we already talked about this part. This is Capricorn ruling your 5th house. So that gives you, this is your house of creativity. So that gives you that that efficiency and effectiveness edge when it comes to creativity. But also with the 2 placements in Aquarius, that unique energy where you have expansion from Jupiter and you have that drive from Mars. Okay. Now you will feel that extra like connection to Mars because you are Aries and Mars rules Aries. So you are right about that. Okay. You will feel that. Now Aquarius happens to rule your house of routine. So like when it comes to like establishing some sort of routine, you're like, I'm not doing that the way normal people do it. That doesn't work for me anyway.
Yeah.
You have to have something like when it comes to acts of service for you, like when you're trying to do stuff.
I'm not good at like daily routine stuff.
No, it's not
like
it's too mundane.
Yeah, I'm not a daily routine person. I mean, there are things that I do try to do every day, but if I put that pressure on myself, then it like makes me want to rebel against it. Does that make sense? Like working out or even meditating. Like, I mean, I love meditating, but sometimes if I miss meditating in the morning I get like mad about having a schedule. I don't know. It's bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Mars in Aquarius.
Yeah.
And it's right on that cusp of that 6th house.
I mean, there are people that are all about routine. Like they do their Christmas holiday things. They do their gym in the mornings. They do their
rising.
There's all of those things that are like, we do this because it's tradition, or we do this because this is what we do. Like I don't work that way. I like to be scared.
I like your life.
Yeah. Oh,
because you're rising.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say in the future I would be. No,
it's just this part of your life. That's how you feel. So you have to separate that up, because when we talk about yourself and when it comes to presenting yourself, you're very much a perfectionist.
Yeah.
See, so that's the native ruler of that house is Virgo. So that's why, like, you're like, you're like, screw tradition. And Aquarius is the rebel. That's literally, they're the rebel, the alien, the social, the humanitarian, right? So you're like, screw acts of service. There's people in the world that are going hungry. Like that's, we got to help everybody, or what's the point? Now let's talk about your relationships.
Okay. I mean, we can.
This is long-term relationships, contractually based, meaning it could also be work and family. No, just kidding. Yeah. I
whenever I get excited, my camera and my lights do that thing. Sorry. Relationships. Yeah.
Yours is ruled by Pisces. Pisces rules your relationship house. It is the oldest and wisest of these zodiac signs, but it's also a little bit out there. Yeah, it's a little bit out there. So you like to have intuitive relationships. Like you just kind of, when you're together, you just it doesn't even have to be defined necessarily. You just kind of have this flow about it, and you go with that, because Pisces, water, right? Emotion, but they're all up here. They're in their heads. So, because they're dreamy and intuitive. So that's the kind of connections you like to have. And on top of that, you have Aries placement here, one of them anyway, because you have an Aries, you have two placements in Aries, but this one's in this house, in 7th house. And this is Mercury. So you like very quick communicate. You want people to tell you that they're interested or what their situation is. And you want it quickly. You want to know like what's going on there, because Aries is quick to action, right?
Okay.
Sometimes too quick, and they're like, oopsie.
Yeah, words come out and I'm like, blah, 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 blah. Words
and that's in your relationships. That's in your relationships and your connections. Sometimes you're like, oopsie. Yeah. So that's all that means. It means that sometimes when you're during your connections, you might be a little quick to action, but sometimes if you hadn't been that quick to act, things wouldn't have happened the way they did.
So am I always the person that says I love you first?
Yes.
Yes.
That's if you're asking me based on this, yes.
I just want to say, I love the words I love you. I love the word love. I love the power behind the word love. And I dated someone who is a total dumpster fire who I won't talk about, but for a second, like we dated for whatever, not that long. But this girl, she didn't believe in saying I love you. And she said that right up front. She was like, I don't believe in it. I've never said it to anyone because they don't deserve it. I'm just like, she was just so hard. And she just like was like anti the word love. And I'm like, wow, I love the word love. I'll say I love you to like somebody who like works at a grocery store who like does something nice for me. I'll just be like, I love you. Thank you. Like, I just love that.
Yeah. Because
just
you don't have a wound. You don't have that kind of wound that person has.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can talk about your wound. If
she can sit and suffer with her wounds. But I just thought how sad and weird that is. And I was like, okay, so it's not like, yeah. Anyway, but I do say, yeah. Okay, I want to hear what else you have to say about relationships.
Well, that's a big part of it, is that you like to have kind of the first say in relationships, maybe even the initiator starting the relationships. And again, not just romantic, all kinds, all connections, networking and whatnot, even. So on top of that, obviously your son's here, which is but it's in the 8th house. So we move into the 8th house, which is the house of transformation, sex, taboo, rebirth, things like that. And so your ego's there. You literally need to continually transform yourself and continually like become a better person in your eyes, and whatever that means to you, because it's how you feed your ego. It's how your ego knows things are okay. I'm expanding. I'm doing these things. I'm stepping into my power. I'm, doing that.
Yeah.
Now this next point that we need to talk about, there's a couple of points we need to say. There's another placement here, but it's in Taurus, barely. So in astrology, we don't talk about, we talk about degrees because they're a big thing, but the signs are all 30 degrees and it goes from 0 to 29, right? Not 1 to 30, 0 to 29. The two that we talk about that are critical degrees are 0 and 29. So your Venus is on 0 degrees of Taurus. All right.
Venus is love. So, beauty and
bottom energy in this
copy
case.
That.
And on top of that, Taurus actually, it natively rules both Taurus and Libra. Okay. So it's in its native sign here, but it's 0 degrees. And the thing about having a 0 degree is that it's always this, you're constantly trying to find secure love, power in love, if that makes sense. It's in your 8th house, so powerful, but also Taurans are the slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah.
Security, high value, richness. So that's why you continually, because it's at that 0 degree, you're always trying to start that in order to find it. It doesn't mean you won't find it. It just means that you will constantly be trying to figure that out.
Interesting.
It's how you feel like you can maintain some sort of power dynamic in your life, not just in relationships. This is all power in your life. And again, power is all relative to the person and whatever you think that might be for you. Everybody has different powers, superpowers, and not. Now, Taurus rules your ninth house. By the way, Taurus, like I said, slow and steady, but also like they love their snacks. So it could be that you could eat yourself into power. You don't even know. That's what that's saying. It's like, I'm just going to Netflix and snack and I will be powerful. Watch.
I like that. Slow and steady.
But,
Taurus
but
power.
having it as your bottom energy or your surrendering energy, as I like to call it, in order for you to be vulnerable with somebody, they have to make you feel very safe and romantic.
Absolutely.
It's got to be romantic and have some love and care. Like you feel like they've got you in like a big giant bear hug almost.
Absolutely.
That's how you can be vulnerable. It doesn't mean that you're a bottom. It just means that's what you need to be vulnerable, right? Like I'm a Scorpio Venus in my 12th house. Forget it. Just forget it. I will never be vulnerable. You get a Scorpio in the house of intuition, you're done.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen. Hence why I'm poly and will never be married again. All right.
Yes.
There it is. Don't trust anybody, so therefore you don't have to have a relationship. So
I like that.
Do you like that?
I do. I like that. I do like that.
It's horrible, but it works for me.
See, I've never been a big dater. Like I've never been like I did a video with a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, who's a big dater, and she's straight and she does like she's been on 10 different dating apps, and I posted a video actually that I interviewed her about that, and I was like, wow, like her, like she dates, like she looks at so many multiple partners, and she's such an amazing, wonderful woman, but she looks at multiple partners as like that could be a love and that could be a person. And me, I'm like, I'm good by myself. I'm good on my own.
Yeah, well, you're an Aries.
Yeah,
that's independence, like number one thing.
Like I never had my like slutty moments, like my hoary slutty. Like you had,
there's still time.
You had your slutty moments, right? Are you in your slutty phase still?
I'm still, I'm like, I think I've like calmed down a little bit, but I mean, like if I told you the difference between my number before I became slutty and after, you would gasp. And I'm not kidding.
Well, tell me.
Like I was busy.
We're in the closet. We're in the closet. This is the part. This is where we go. Okay.
I have to guess, but because I'm a Capricorn, I do have a list, folks.
Is this your body count number?
Yeah. And I have had interactions with every single sign. We'll put it that way. So it's at least more than 12, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But the first person that I dated outside my marriage before we got our divorce, when we opened our marriage up, that was number 8. Okay. I've been divorced for 4 years. Okay. You want to guess? How I mean, it's only been 4 years.
I don't
possibly be that many.
I mean, but you're so busy doing charts and interviews and podcasts.
Yeah, how
do you fit in all of this time? And then all of a sudden she's like,
I have a girlfriend.
And I also do sex education. Everyone's like, call me, Deb.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know, but I love it.
Reviews on all those dating apps and everything.
I love it. I love it. I'm here for all of it. This is good.
But it's somewhere around the 60s, we'll just say.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So now I also want to say,
I don't know why I'm congratulating. I think that's great.
Thank you. No,
yes.
Okay. I'm
beautiful.
all about celebrating the sluttiness.
That is beautiful. I mean, we should call it something else. I feel like
I don't care. It's not a bad word to me. I'm an ethical.
It's not a bad word to me either. I want to make up a word with you. You and I should make up a new word. What word can we make up that means sluttiness, but like not? We just have to make up a new term.
Like something like thirsty, but not thirsty.
I don't know. We'll come up with something astrologically sounding.
Dehydrated. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes.
But I will say, just so everybody knows, I am a stone top. So I was topping all these people. I wasn't necessarily receiving, which also honestly makes it easier, in my opinion. But anybody who is switch or bottom, you can disagree with me if you want. I don't
Yeah.
know why you would, but y'all have a lot you have to deal with that I
Yeah.
don't have to. Okay. And
I'm
vice
like,
versa.
I'm like
But
textbook switch, by the way. I am
nice.
like
See?
100% like, look it up in the dictionary, picture this fucking visage right there. I'm definitely a switch.
Yeah. It probably just goes
Switchy
with the
switch
flow for
switch.
you, which makes sense.
It just is. I am my most comfortable and my most at ease when I have the balance of both of my kind of dominant and submissive and my masculine and my feminine. Like when I am
Mm-hmm.
in my sweet spot with a partner or just in the world, when I'm in that zhuzh, my kind of masculine feminine energy and also my kind of top and bottom energy, I guess you
Mm-hmm.
would say, is
Yeah.
really I find myself right there in the exact center in the middle. Like I am as
Mm-hmm.
as switchy as you can get, sister. Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it seems like
That's just
anyway
who I
from this
am.
side.
That's just who I am.
You probably won't bottom for everybody though, unless you feel safe enough with them. But it feels like that you probably don't even get into the situation until you feel safe enough for that to happen anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that totally makes sense.
I think
All
it's all
right.
about playing and being playful and energy and yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All
I
of that
mean,
good stuff.
yeah, you have a lot of,
Finding
unique
people's
and fire.
energies.
You have a lot of air and fire.
Air and fire. Blow. It makes
Uh-huh.
smoke.
Uh-huh. Fire tornado. Fire
Fire
tornado in you.
tornado. I love it. This is so great. Would you have any advice for people who are learning a little bit about their own birth charts and astrology, like things that because sometimes people can like look into it very seriously, maybe other people blow it off a little bit, but if you're doing a chart for someone, what kind of advice would you give them as far as like how to take this what do you do with this information?
That's a great question. I always at the beginning, kind of similarly to what I did here, except for I added something, which is that, I know that a lot of people don't think that astrology is an exact science, which can make sense. But like I was saying, we're made out of the same stuff as stars. So obviously we're affected by the sky. And so this is merely suggestions of whispers of things that happened at the moment you were born. What was poured into your soup that made you, right? So
Yes.
there's no way for us to necessarily predict how that's going to happen. We could say, oh, this is a good time for that, or it's not a good time for that, just because, the aspects, which is those relationships. But that's it. It's all about, like, even when we talk about the negative aspects, which is usually the one that people think of as square. It's even red on your chart, right? It's 90 degrees.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, but that's not, it doesn't mean you can't do something. It just is like, hey, if you've noticed you've had a little issue in this area, this is probably why. This is how you might want to work through it, So I think, and how I take astrology and hope other people take it, is that it's just about energy, and it's about understanding what you're made of a little more so you can cooperate with it better. That's it. Getting some validation for things,
having tools, like having some tools, like, but you've never like read somebody's chart and just been like, dude, you are bad with money, or like like reel it in, or stop being a liar, or like, have you ever just wanted to just see something in somebody's chart? Yes,
it's happened, but usually I go off of what they're like, based off of what they're saying. So I'm never negative. Like, I'm never like, you're gonna, like, that's bad, because that's not gonna help. I always want to, even if it's a negative connotation, I always try to give the positive spin on it. But there has been times when people are like, oh, I'm not like that. And I'm like, yeah, you are. Like, I'll be like, it says in your chart you are. So I don't know if you think you're not.
Right.
But you sure are. And then sometimes they're like, oh, like I called them out on it, and they were trying to get by on it. And I'm like, wait a second, don't mess with me, because I'm just interpreting this star language. So what you're telling me is I could believe you that what you're saying is true, but that's not what your chart's saying. So,
Yeah.
and sometimes that happens, but usually it's just kind of about we all have similar experiences. We all have all 12 signs in our charts, right? We all
Yeah.
have different things we experience in our lives in different ways. So we can relate to a lot of the stuff.
I love that. I love that.
But some of it is intuitive a bit, I think. So when I'm
Mm.
actually doing like a video reading, I can connect because then it's me and the other person, and then sometimes something will pop in and I'm like, oh, what? Um, but other than that, it's pretty. I just try to make it a positive situation. Like
Wow.
we were talking a little bit earlier about your Gemini midhaven, right? As an
Mm-hmm.
example,
Mm-hmm.
and that is the highest point of achievement and how you're supposed to be a storyteller. That makes so much sense, right?
Yes,
Like
it does.
when you start to reflect back and look at it. Now, interestingly, what also is there, what I was going to say, I was going to tell you about when we got to it, Saturn, that's the other social planet. Jupiter was one,
Mm-hmm.
Saturn is the other one.
Mm-hmm.
It's the planet of restriction, but also results. So, where it's in somebody's chart, and in your case, it's in the 10th house under Gemini, is sometimes you might need to either edit your story down or make sure you're using some of your experience before you put it out. That's why Saturn's there, because it will restrict that a little bit in order you get the results that you want from it. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah. I
So that's
love
another thing is like a
that.
lot of people say, oh, Saturn's restriction and it's where it's restricting you. It's just giving you an indication where you need possibly to be restricted. And that's my opinion. We all have different ones, but it seems to resonate.
Yes,
So,
I do. I love that. I do love that. Oh my goodness, this has been so much fun. So I want to ask you, like, I feel inspired now just to like learn more about astrology in general because of what you told
yes.
me. Like so many things do resonate. It's really exciting. I mean, are there people who are I don't know, like not naysayers, but like are like there's like the in the closet horoscope newspaper readers who are like, oh, I don't believe in this or I don't blah blah blah.
Uh-huh.
Like, what can you say to people who just haven't really given it a try as far as like
That's
analyzing
okay.
astrology?
Yeah, if it's not their thing, it's not their thing. But like as an example, I have a friend who is just like that. And when I first moved back to Arizona, we were all having dinner. And she was like, whatever, whatever. I don't want to hear about this crap. I don't know anything about it. I don't care. And then I started reading, like, well, can you just listen to me for 10 minutes? And if you want me, or 5 minutes, and if you want, I'll stop. And they're like, whatever, just hurry up. Right. And I started, and I read their whole chart because they were like, oh, and I know this person. So it's
Yeah.
not like it's somebody that I knew. So I was reading stuff to them that I didn't even know about them. I'm like, wait a second. And they're like, what the? So, like, either you're into it or you're not. And I think
Yeah.
it's
Well, you
about the
definitely know
intention
what
of
you're
it.
talking about. I mean, even though I know you said you've only been doing this professionally for 3 something years, or
Mm-hmm.
QUEERSTROLOGY is what, 3 years old now?
2 years old.
2
Yep.
years old. But
Yep.
yeah, I mean, I've watched so many of your videos. I think you definitely know your shit, and you
Yeah. I mean, I get to read
have.
celebrities all the time.
I
I got to read
know.
Margaret Cho.
Did you
Look
read
who was
Margaret
that.
Cho? I freaking
Yeah.
love Margaret Cho. Wait, I missed that one. Is this, do
Yeah,
you have
Margaret's
that
on there. She
video
was my
up?
first. Yeah, it was
Is
here on
that,
TikTok, but I did post it, I think,
did you
even on
post it on?
YouTube.
Really? Oh my
Hmm.
goodness. Margaret Cho.
Um,
What's the craziest thing about Margaret Cho's chart? What does
the
she have a
reason
lot of
why
fire?
she's a Sagittarius. Yeah.
She
The
seems
reason why I
fiery
wanted
as
to read
fuck.
her is because I did this thing. I like to research a lot of charts and like actual tangible information. And I did this thing on comedians, and Sagittarius were the least funny sun sign. I thought that was hysterical.
Oh
I have
my
a lot of
gosh.
Sagittarius placements, but Margaret is a Sagittarius.
I love
So
it.
I went on TikTok and I just pulled her chart up and I had it behind me and I was talking about it. And then I'm like, why didn't I ask her to come on so I could read it to her? So I sent her a TikTok and said, hey, I just read your natal chart, but maybe I should actually read it to you. Are you interested? She stitched it and went, yep. So we did it. We did a live reading on TikTok.
I love that, Margaret Cho. Hey, let me ask you, is there one celebrity on your wish list that you would like to read their chart for them? I mean, I know you can Google and look up people's birthplaces and times and stuff, but who's on your list? Wait, now you look really excited. I want your top 3. Maybe I can help you. Maybe I was
gonna say I might need more than one.
We know people who know people. Maybe I can help you or in some way. But who are your top 3 celebrities you would like to do charts for?
Right now, the first one that I always think of is Neil deGrasse Tyson. Y'all, he's an astrophysicist who, if you do not know who he is, he does not really believe in astrology. Okay? He's an astrophysicist. I want to talk to him about it because I think I can make him pause. Woo! That's all. I just want him to pause for a moment because I've heard his philosophy on it. I understand what he's saying, and I can actually feed that into how we've gotten to where we are now. So that's one of them.
Who else?
I really want to read Doja Cat because she's into, although I don't know what's going on with her right now, but she's a Libra. By the way, so is Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's also a Libra. And
oh my God, I have a feeling Doja Cat would try to like tell you her stuff, right? Like no, she's totally, she's so woo woo. Didn't she grow up in an ashram and stuff? Like, I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, she. I think she did. Maybe
she would be interesting to read her chart to her. And then I think the lead queer that I want to read right now, it's probably Abby Jacobson.
Oh my God, yes.
But
let's make some calls. Let's just call people.
Will, which is the other executive producer on A League of Their Own. But I know with everything being so busy, I haven't wanted to really ask. There's been a few people from like the They Them horror movie, and I know.
I can't wait to see. Right, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see it. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait.
There's a part you need to skip. We'll talk separate. Okay.
Okay.
I'll just, but do not let me forget. Just okay. Everybody who needs to know, there is a website called doesthedogdie.com. Okay. Now this is a great website because it will tell you TV shows, movies, and it will tell you if anything bad happens. Animals, abuse, anything that might be a trigger for you.
Maybe I can't watch it. I want to watch this movie so bad.
You can. It tells you the time frames. So you can skip so you don't see.
That's really good. So it's like a whole like trigger warning. It's opened
up for me to be able to watch other movies because I'll watch a movie.
Do you cry? I cry at movies.
And I'm out.
I cry at movies 100%.
I'm a Capricorn. Goats don't have tear ducts. So no, I don't cry.
I cry at movies. I cry at yogurt commercials. I don't know what. Like, I'm just like, I cry if I see someone cry. I'm like,
do you cry social? Yes, socially.
I don't like crying in front of people, but I do. I get misty. I get like,
your Cancer rules your 11th house, which is your social house.
Yeah. No, if I see somebody else crying, I'm a bigger happy cry person than I am a sad cry person.
Totally. That makes
totally
sense. Like, are you the mom of your group?
If I watch, no, but yes. Like if I watch somebody win an Olympic medal or a marathon, I cry. When I watch people win awards, I cry. When I'm happy meeting somebody for the first time, I cry. Like I'm definitely a happy cry person.
You know what? This is your Chiron, and we're going to talk about it. This is your childhood wound. Okay. Because you don't have to answer too much to this, okay? Because it could get a little deep. But your Chiron is also in Aries, and it's very close to your sun, which means your ego is involved. And what it is that you are very good at helping other people celebrate how special they are.
Oh, that's nice.
You, however, feel guilty about being special. So know that you should continue to make other people, feel special, but also give yourself some of that too. Make yourself and acknowledge that you're also a special person. That's part of your healing. It comes from something that happened when you were a kid, which in this case, because of the house that it's in for you, which is the 8th house, it means great loss. So you had a great loss probably when you're a child, and that could happen, as we discussed earlier, throughout life in some ways. And that's why you cherish how special people are, because you don't know, right? You can lose them at any moment. So you're really good at that. But remember, we can lose you too, and you're special. So, don't forget to acknowledge that.
Woo. That resonates.
I know,
that resonates. Deb, I'm so grateful to have you in my closet today.
Thank you for having me in your
Thank
closet
you
today.
so much. What a fun, incredible video. Tell everyone, I'm going to obviously put all of your links and your link tree and all of your everything in the description below, but tell everyone where to find you and what you have coming up next.
Sure. I'm the QUEERSTROLOGY on all the things, except for none of the young people things like Twitch. I don't do any of that. YouTube, TikTok, and what are the other ones? Oh, Instagram, Facebook, right? And it's at QUEERSTROLOGY. So it's queer and then astrology.
Astrology.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Okay. How much fun. Have fun in your childhood home. How long are you going to be in Arizona?
Well, I moved here, so I don't know.
We'll you moved
I sold
from
my house.
Portlandia.
It was time to go. It was time to go. Yeah.
Well, Arizona's cool though. Well, I hope you have
the coolest.
I hope you have an amazing rest of your week. And I'm so grateful for all of this time and all of your knowledge and learning so much about this. And it's great. I'm really, really happy.
Thank you for having me. And so everybody knows, like, there's a lot of content on there for you to learn this stuff that I'm talking about. There's even, like, at the top, I've pinned on all my profiles how to read your natal chart in like 10 steps.
And I will have
I also do readings, but
your link tree is very organized too, and it has like all like you can you can
get a free natal chart on there. You can get a reading,
all different things. And I'm definitely going to watch your Margaret Cho video because I love her. And let's get Doja Cat. Let's work on that. Let's get Doja Cat for you.
All right.
For sure.
That sounds good.
And then Abby. All right. One big kiss. Thank you for coming and hanging out in my closet.
Thank you so much, Amy.
Bye, sweetheart. Love you too. Bye-bye.